Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Perron-McLean from Via Rail's communication team, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Via Rail's annual public meeting, RAPM, for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025. This session is presented as an audio recording in keeping with Via Rail's universal accessibility policy. Today, we'll be looking back at 2025 with three key members of Via Rail's leadership: Jonathan Goldbloom, Chair of our Board of Directors; Mathieu Paquette, our Interim President and Chief Executive, who took office at the start of 2026; and Carl Delisle, our Chief Financial and Technology Officer. We also invited Canadians to submit their questions ahead of this meeting. Thank you to everyone who took part. We'll be answering the most frequently asked questions during this recording. Additional answers will be posted on our APM page at viarail.ca. So let's get started. It's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Jonathan Goldbloom and Mr. Mathieu Paquette.
Thank you. Sarah.
Hello. Now, Jonathan, I would like to start with you. 2025 was a complex year all around, to say the least. What did that year reveal about Via Rail's role in Canada?
I think it underscored the important role that we play and the value Canadians place on passenger rail. Without a doubt, it's a complicated world. The geopolitical situation is challenging for all of us. And the world order is changing. And I think Canadians have wanted to take this time to get to know their country and to get to know their neighbors better. And so what we've seen is an uptake in volume in terms of people taking the rail. And we're bringing Canadians together wherever they live. And at the same time, we're bringing tourists to the country, and we're also serving as a vital service, particularly for Indigenous and remote communities. So it's just underscored what our mandate is and how we're delivering on it.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think that really highlights the essential role that Via Rail plays. Now, Mathieu, you have already been with Via Rail for 4 years. From the seat you're now in, what does that responsibility feel like?
Already, in my 4th year, I can assure you that I can see every day the impact that Via Rail has on Canadian. This impact is real. It's tangible. You can see it. Our mandate is simple. We need to provide reliable, safe, and modern passenger rail experience. But in real life, our mandate is greater than this. We're still, for many Canadians who lives in remote communities, the only mode of transportation that they has access to. And we need to remind ourselves this every day. That's what we should be focusing on, having, a true impact on Canadians. And our mandate doesn't change with the headlines or operational pressures. That's what we need to focus on every day.
Thank you, Mathieu. That sense of national connection really came to life in 2025 with the Canada Strong Pass initiative. What did that represent for Via Rail and for you both?
The Canada Strong Pass initiative was a wonderful thing that the government initiated. It brought together Via Rail with Parks Canada and with the museums across the country. So someone from Saskatoon could go to Winnipeg to see the Human Rights Museum, to Ottawa for the National Gallery, to Halifax for Pier 21 and the Immigration Museum. So it was important in terms of connecting Canadians, where Via Rail has a key role to play. But it also, from a business perspective, was important for us. It brought a new generation of Canadians to use the train, so that we had families, we have young people, and that's just great because we're confident that once they've been on a train, they're going to take the train again and again and again.
Mathieu, would you like to add anything?
I think it was for us a real privilege at Via Rail to be part of that program, of that initiative. And I think that the program showed that the appetite for rail travel in this country is real. It's not abstract. We never seen so many families traveling on board of our train, so we're excited and we're happy to welcome even more Canadians on board of our train this summer.
Now, this initiative really shows how rail continues to bring Canadians closer together. And to keep playing that role, Via Rail also must prepare for the future. Mathieu, why is the renewal of the Pan-Canadian fleet so important?
2025 was an important pivotal year for us at Via Rail. We made the announcement lately of the acquisition of 45 new locomotives, hybrid technology, which is a premiere in North America. We're quite happy about this, excited. So more to come, but we made a lot of progress in 2025, and we'll make sure to complete the procurement process in the upcoming weeks.
Sarah, can I add to that?
Please do.
What I think we've seen over the last several years is increased confidence by our shareholder, the Government of Canada, in rail. The upcoming investment in the long distance and regional fleet is important. It's important to remember they'd already invested in the fleet for the corridor. So I just want to express our gratitude to the Government of Canada on behalf of Via Rail for its commitment to passenger rail, and commit to them that we're going to deliver in terms of our operations and the service that we provide to Canadians.
Now, Jonathan, I would like to pivot towards another topic. Via Rail went through a leadership transition at the end of 2025. Before we dig into operations, how did the board navigate that moment?
Well, if I'm going to answer honestly, but I think there's a couple of things I want to say to that. First of all, I want to thank Mathieu Paquette, who led our organization for 2 years, and thank him for the direction he set us in. I also want to thank him for bringing together a really competent team, and that we haven't lost a step because the people that formed his executive leadership are still with us, and they are leading the company in a strong strategic direction and delivering on our mandate. And the other group that I'd like to thank is also my colleagues on the board of directors. Many of them have been with VIA for many years. Their commitment, their understanding of the business, and their strategic leadership has been vital over this year and previous years. So we owe them a debt of gratitude. And finally, we can't forget the employees. They too have delivered at all levels, from on-train to the maintenance center. So I want to thank them as well.
Thank you. Mathieu, this is your first annual public meeting in the role of Interim President and CEO. Jonathan spoke about focus, accountability, and modernization. How are you approaching this mandate?
Well, I'm proud to take on this role, Sarah. And I'm grateful for the trust placed in me by the Government of Canada and by the board. I've worked closely with teams all across the country, and I understand both the importance of our mandate and the expectations Canadians, our passengers, have of us. Right now, I believe Via Rail needs a strong operational execution and a relentless focus on discipline to deliver our mandate. The work underway across the organization is about improving reliability, improving consistency. We need to ensure, financial sustainability, and we need to build a true culture of continuous improvement, and this at every level. I believe that teams across the country are fully engaged, and we are approaching it with focus, discipline, and a very clear sense of direction right now. At the end of the day, our passengers, Canadians, expect a rail service that is reliable and safe. And that is exactly what we are working to deliver every day.
Mathieu, you spoke about discipline and standards. The completion of the new corridor fleet was a decisive milestone in 2025, but it also tested the organization. Can you be candid about the challenges we faced and where things stand?
2025 was a challenging year, but first, I want to take a moment to thank our employees for everything they have done in the past year. Every one of them working in our trains, in our maintenance centers, in our offices, they carried the organization through one of the most demanding periods in recent times. And I think all the pressure they absorb day after day without losing sight of passenger care tells a lot. That kind of commitment is very inspiring, and it reinforced my own commitment to make sure we give them the tools, the conditions, and the leadership they deserve. But as I said, 2025 was a challenging year. The first was the shunting-related speed restriction. impacting our new equipment, our new train. Those restrictions created a negative effect on punctuality and on traveling times. Working with CN, we implemented speed tables that have since improved travel times. And we continue working with CN to explore every available avenue to reduce the impact of those restrictions and the impact that it has on traveling time and at the end of the day on our passengers. The second challenge was the winter operational and the performance of our new venture trains, of our new fleet in the corridor. But first I want to say that the full commissioning of our 32 new train sets in the corridor, in the Quebec City Windsor corridor, was an achievement we delivered on time and on budget. Passenger feedback of the new fleet itself has been extremely positive. Canadians appreciate the accessibility, comfort, the modern design, and I think the overall onboard experience of these new trains. That said, challenges are expecting when introducing new equipment of this scale and complexity. The new trains presented mechanical challenges that affected on-time performance, and our passengers felt that directly. I think we applied, as we do always, the lessons learned, and we're working with Siemens on developing a true comprehensive plan to make sure that we're not in the same position for next winter. The fleet currently achieves 98% en route reliability. It's good, but this is not yet where it needs to be. And we're working really hard to close that gap. I think for me, the most important thing when I'm reflecting on the challenges ahead of us is that now we need to focus on things that we can control. We need to improve our maintenance practices, make sure that our trains depart on time, so improving departure readiness, and we need to respond faster when things are not going as planned.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, Mathieu. Jonathan, would you like to add anything to this?
I'd really just like to emphasize the key points that Mathieu made. The first is we have to do better in dealing with the things that are under our control. And so that's part of Mathieu and his team's mandate, to really look at that, to make sure that our on-time departures, for example, are really top-notch. The second thing, though, is, and it's implied in some of his answer, is that we need to work with partnerships, in that if we're really going to attack on-time performance and improve our overall performance, we have to deal with our partners. We only own 3% of our track, which means CN Metrolinx are really key to us. And what's encouraging is, I think over the past 12 to 18 months, we've seen increased dialogue, increased collaboration, and a much stronger working relationship, which is to the benefit of all Canadians.
And that's excellent news. Now, in a demanding operational year, there were also moments that reminded us what rail means to Canadians. The ocean marked 120 years of service, and the Canadians celebrated its 70th anniversary. When you think back to those celebrations, what stands out the most to you?
Those celebrations were very special moments. The ocean, our historic service connecting Montreal to Halifax, celebrated 120 years of service. What a milestone, And the Canadian, our iconic transcontinental train linking Toronto to Vancouver, marked its 70th anniversary. But seeing people from Vancouver, Allegonians, Canadians, that came to our stations in Halifax and Vancouver to celebrate, share their stories, tour our trains, those were magic moments. I had the chance to attend, and honestly, what struck me most was our employees, current and former employees, who came to share their stories. It's not something you can invent or manufacture. So it comes from people who truly care about what they do and who they do it for. And it showed how deeply passenger rail still exists, resonates with Canadians. So it was inspiring to see that connection still felt so strongly by Canadians.
Those were two wonderful events. They were wonderful because it reminded us at VIA the important role we play in nation building. It comes back to your first question, that VIA's mandate is to connect Canadians. And that's what we've been doing for 120 years on the ocean and for 70 years on the Canadian. And I guess the best illustration of that is, the train station in Halifax is built next to Pier 21, which is now the Immigration Museum. But you can physically see the people arriving from abroad at Pier 21 over a 50-year period, then walking from the pier to our trains, taking them to places unknown, with all the hope and anxiety of living in a new country. And that's the memory that I will take away from the celebration of what VIA does for Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Goldbloom. Now, behind all that operational work, modernization efforts, and investments we've discussed today is the work required to build a stronger and more sustainable organization for the future. Carl Delisle, our Chief Financial and Technology Officer, is joining us now to walk us through Via Rail's 2025 financial results and the progress made over the past year. Now, throughout this conversation, we've talked about modernization, operational pressures, and long-term transformation. How would you describe Via Rail's financial performance in that environment?
Yes, Sarah. So the results show an organization making disciplined progress in a very demanding operating environment. Total revenues reached $514.8 million in 2025, up from $478 million the previous year, and an increase of 7.7%. Passenger revenue rose to $493.1 million, and we welcome 4.4 million passengers, essentially stable compared to 2024, despite the operational challenges discussed earlier. Importantly, our operating loss narrowed to $375.7 million compared to $385.2 million in 2024. And Via Rail now covers, 58% of its operating costs through self-generated revenue, an important indicator as we continue building the long-term sustainability of the organization. Those results came from careful cost management, steady financial oversight, and disciplined decision-making across the organization.
Mathieu, would you like to add something to this?
If I can build up on what Carl just said, for me, these results are also the product of decision we have made all across the organization every day. And it tells me that when we stay focused on what we can control, we can make a difference. Whether that's better planning, that we coordinate more effectively, or we improve how we execute day after day, we create stronger outcomes. And those decisions we make every day have a difference over time. So I think our teams have shown that when expectations are clear and that everyone is pulling in the same direction, we can move forward.
Carl, technology has also played a growing role in that effort. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely, Sarah. Technology has been central to the way we improve efficiency, make better decisions, and support operations across the organization. In 2025, we expanded our use of advanced analytics and artificial intelligence to help optimize fuel consumption, which remains one of our largest operating costs. We also continued improving asset management and operational efficiency across the network, helping reduce costs while supporting stronger performance. We also launched Innovia, an internal platform that gives employees a channel to bring forward ideas and turn them into practical improvements. The best insight often come from the people close to the work. And we want to create more opportunities for those ideas to move forward.
Yes, the ideas that come from the front lines are invaluable.
Exactly.
Alongside those efforts, Via Rail is continuing to make significant investments to prepare for the future. Carl, what were the major investment projects that defined 2025?
Yes, Sarah. Capital expenditures in 2025 totaled $259.8 million. Those investments supported every part of our organization. I mean, our stations, our technology, our equipment, but two projects stand out in particular. First, the modernization of our Toronto Maintenance Center, a major infrastructure project that will reinforce fleet maintenance and support operational performance once completed in 2026. Second, the procurement process for a new long-distance regional and remote fleet, the largest fleet renewal initiative in Via Rail's history. These trains will eventually replace equipment with an average age of 77 years and help ensure Canadians continue to have access to modern passenger rail service from coast to coast to coast. Taken together, these investments reflect a clear philosophy. Every dollar we spend must support service, modernization, and long-term sustainability. That's the commitment we've made to the Canadians, and that's what guides every capital decision we make. Managing all these projects requires discipline, and this year, our Corporate Project Management Office was honored with the 2025 Elixir PMO of the Year Award from PMI Montreal, recognition for the governance and coordination behind nearly 200 strategic projects across the country. So I'm extremely proud of the team behind that achievement.
Thank you, Carl. Now, today's conversation touched on a wide range of topics: Via Rail's role in connecting Canadians, the operational work underway across the organization, modernization projects that will shape the future of passenger rail, and the financial discipline required to support it all. As mentioned earlier, we invited Canadians to submit their questions ahead of this meeting, and we'd now like to address some of the topics that generated the most interest. Additional responses are available at our APM page at www.viarail.ca. The first question we will discuss is actually two questions in one. We received multiple questions about Via Rail's service in Gaspésie, but also about Via Rail's service in the Lower St. Lawrence region. Mathieu, could you give us an update about Via Rail's plans for these regions?
Yeah, of course, Sarah. And let me start with La Gaspésie. First, Via Rail's commitment to return passenger rail service to La Gaspésie has always been there. This is not a question of if, but of when and how. That is why, shortly after becoming interim CEO, one of the first things I did was to travel to Gaspésie to meet with, elected officials, regional partners, community representative, and it was good to hear directly from the people who care deeply about this service. Our approach was really boots on the ground. We visited stations, assessed infrastructure conditions, and engaged with everyone from municipal leaders to citizen groups. We are now seriously evaluating all options to move this forward, including scenarios for a progressive return. But I want to be clear. A return of service all the way to Gaspé remains the only solution that truly meets the region needs. It is the option that gives Gaspésiens access to their region's biggest center, Gaspé, that generates the most tourism benefits and that supports real regional economic growth or development. To get there, What is essential is a clear commitment and a clear timeline for the completions of the remaining segment between Port-Daniel-Gascon and Gaspé. I mean, for me, that is a key condition for long-term viability, and we will continue to work with all partners to help move that forward. As for the Lower St. Lawrence region, we are aware, we can hear people, so we're aware that the current schedule is not ideal for residents of the region. The questions of service to the Lower St. Lawrence is closely linked to this broader work. Today the region is served by our Montreal and Halifax service, the Ocean, and naturally, the service is designed around those two principal markets, which are Montreal and Halifax. So we are aware that the current schedule is not ideal for people of the region. That is why we are looking at these two questions together. As we design the future service for the Gaspé route, we are also considering how the service can better meet the transportation needs of communities in the Lower St. Lawrence. Is it still early in the process? But as the work develops, I look forward to seeing how we can improve service for that region as well.
Thank you, Mathieu. Carl, we received a number of questions on our reservation system. We made improvements this year. Can you share more about that?
For sure, Sarah. Our focus over the past year has been on making the system more flexible and more responsive. In 2025, we launched a pilot allowing business class passengers to select their meals in advance. The feedback was strong, and the feature was rolled out across all corridor trains in 2026, improving both passenger choice and onboard service planning. The system also showed its adaptability in the summer of 2025, when it allowed us to implement the Canada Strong Pass program quickly and at scale. That was an important milestone. Looking ahead, we will continue building on this foundation, using the reservation system as a tool to deliver better service, greater consistency, and smoother experience for every passenger.
Thank you, Carl. Another positive development made possible by our reservation system was the return of bicycle service on the Quebec City-Ottawa route.
Yes, Sarah. So we reintroduced the ability to reserve space for bicycle on certain services in 2026. We heard from our passengers on this, cyclists and travelers who want to explore Canada by train and by bike, and we responded. The reservation system allowed us to do this in a operationally sound way, managing capacity carefully while meeting real passenger demand. And if I could say a bit more about bikes on board, reintroducing bike transport adds steps to the boarding process for onboard crews. To ensure this new service integrates well into our onboard procedures and does not affect on-time performance, Via Rail chose to implement it gradually, starting with a select number of trains on the Quebec City-Ottawa route. This allows us to assess the operational impact and better understanding passenger demand before any change to scope are considered. In the coming months, we will monitor the service closely, tracking both operational performance and passenger demand. How the service evolves will be based on what that data shows.
Thank you, Carl. So we've covered a lot of ground today, from operational challenges and financial results to the investments we're making and the tools helping us continuously improve the passenger experience. Mathieu, as we close, what gives you confidence about where Via Rail is headed in 2026?
A lot of things, honestly, Sarah. I think, first of all, I take confidence from our people. More than 3,800 employees that comes to work every day, committed to serve, Canadians. They are true professionals, and their resilience and dedication are what keep the organization moving forward. And I think it's important to end on that note, not because the challenges are behind us, but because we're moving in the right direction. The commissioning of our new corridor fleet is now complete. What a milestone. The transition was demanding, but the focus now is entirely on getting the full value out of that new equipment, of those new train sets. On the pan-Canadian side, what excites me most is what the future fleet will mean for the people of remote communities and all communities that depend on our services across the country. Think of a family in Churchill, traveler boarding in Jasper or Moncton. The communities connected through our regional and remote routes. Those investments are made for them. And I think it will have a great impact on Canadians. And in 2026, we'll also complete, the construction of our new Toronto Maintenance Centre, giving finally the teams better tools, better infrastructure, and a stronger operational environment to support the work that they do every day. In 2025, we have started to improve our relationship with the communities and the stakeholders that we serve by having meaningful engagement with them. We will continue that in 2026. We remain in close contact with ALTO, to ensure continued alignment on the future of passenger rail service in this country. I think this is very important as well. So 2026 is about continuing to improve the performance, to continue our reliability, and to continue to focus on what we can control and do it better. We have a country to move, and we are moving with it.
Thank you, Mathieu. And thank you as well to Jonathan Goldbloom and Carl Delisle for taking part in today's discussion. As mentioned earlier, answers to the remaining questions submitted by the public, along with Via Rail's 2025 annual report, are available on our annual public meeting webpage. For additional information or assistance, we invite you to visit our website or contact our customer service team. Thank you for joining us today, and most importantly, thank you for the trust you place in Via Rail. It is a privilege to serve you, and we look forward to welcoming you on board.